Hi everyone, this is Lowell, and we're continuing in our discussion of music theory, and we're in the section discussing melody. And so we've talked a little bit about melody in terms of thematic development and in terms of intervals. And now I'd like to talk about melody from a horizontal context, and that's really talking about the contour of melody and what a successful melodic contour looks like. The best suggestion that I can make in terms of creating melodies is to have varied intervallic structure. Some of the most beautiful melodies have wide, at least part of the melody has wide intervals around somewhere around an octave or a major seventh or minor seventh in the melody. And examples of that would be one of my favorite songs of all time is Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which starts out with a octave. Da, 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 da. Right? And so that's a really good example of that. The opening theme of Star Trek, believe it or not, is, I think, a successful melody. There are many successful melodies that we all know and appreciate. Most of music today is rhythmic in nature, and people kind of navigate in our current pop culture to rhythmic, especially in electronic music, EDM type of music. Where the drop happens, where all of a sudden there's a pulsating bass, and everybody gets really excited about that. Melodically, I'm very excited about really, really beautiful, successful melodies. And there's a common theme that is universal, really, in the structure of successful melodies, and that is the contour. And the contour has something to do with universal structure. And a lot of composers will find themselves doing this even intuitively. And many works of great musicians, great composers of the past will follow this same type of trajectory in terms of time. And I also want to kind of interject this, that in Western music, we have a tendency to view music as a linear development, as a storyline, much like a good drama or a good play. And so the sequential development of musical structure resembles a lot like a good story, like a good Shakespearean play or a good movie, where it takes time to develop the core thoughts and the core characters of that story. It takes a while to develop that and to set up the problem that the story has to solve, and that takes about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through, and then it reaches this point in the storyline of climax, of where it's just so intense. All the different parts and pieces of that story are fighting and trying to resolve, and then resolution happens, and then the last either fourth or third comes back to repose, comes back to finalize and say, okay, this story is finished. And so melodic successful melodies follow that same pattern. More Eastern type of approach to music is I would say meditative and cyclical, and where it's just constant and ongoing. Interestingly, a lot of EDM music does fall into the Eastern type of mindset, where it's not really linear in terms of sequentially telling a story, but it's more just state of being type of musical composition. And even interestingly, some of the one of the EDM styles is called trance, and so it's meant to basically be a sort of transcendental meditative type of flow, not so much a story in terms of development. But anyway, going back to the successful trajectory of a beautiful melody, it follows that pattern. And if you study, Bach does this a lot, but it really starts, here. I don't know if you can see this, but it starts here, and then it goes up for about, somewhere around, it's the golden mean. It's the best way I can explain it, is it's somewhere between 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the piece. And so it's going up. And it could be, a short melody. It doesn't have to be a long composition, but, it can be a melody of, say, 8 bars or whatever. But it goes up about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way, and then it comes down to repose, and it lands the plane. And so, of course, you can have, melodic. I'm talking about, intervallically and melodically. You can have where it goes up and down and up and down, but generally it's going up, and then generally it's going down and lands. I remember reading a statement by Nadia Boulanger, and she was discussing successful melodies, and unsuccessful melodies end up basically going up and then just kind of petering down, instead of having a long trajectory, getting up to that climax point, and then coming back down to repose. My father really taught me this in terms of musical composition. Some of the best moments musically is when he says, it takes a while to get up to that peak, but then a really good composer can keep it there, and extend it and protract it to where you're at that place of basically a sense of euphoria or floating, where another maybe analogy I've heard, whenever they do movies about outer space, they have an airplane that goes up and then goes up quickly and then makes a downturn. And in those few seconds of the airplane doing that, people can actually film like they're in outer space. The people are floating in the inside the airplane to where they can film that, and it looks like they're in outer space. And so what you're trying to do compositionally in creating melody, or as good composers do, is that they take you up, they gradually get you up to that place, and then in that moment of going back down, there's this kind of magical moment where you seem like you're floating, and it seems like you're just emotionally in a state where you're experiencing the beauty of the music. And that, to me, that's what a really successful trajectory of a melody can do, is bring you to that point of emotional expression, and keep you there as long as you can, as long as you can stay there melodically, and sustain that, and then come back to repose. And that's just you can look at any kind of mathematical equation, and you can call it the golden mean, the golden ratio. Pi and phi numerically tie into that. And so I just wanted to talk about melodic contour and give you a sense of what a beautiful melody looks like, and leave you with that.